Faz companhia para Ferdinando ali, para o Megamente. Tá. Ô Claudinho, teu neto, é neto ou neta?
Neto.
Neto? Ele assiste esses desenhos de televisão, essas coisas, não?
Mas só que tem musiquinha, ele não ouviu.
Transmitindo. Bom, retornando, nós vamos ter agora a intervenção do professor Gavin, da Austrália, e nós, em seguida teremos ainda mais uma apresentação antes de iniciarmos a discussão, perguntas, etc. Professor Gavin.
Thank you, Mauro, for the introduction, and thank you for the university more broadly for inviting me to present here. It's great to be here. I'm a social epidemiologist and have recently moved from Queensland in Australia to the Institute for Health and Ageing. This is a recently developed research institute. It started in January 2015, so it's a very new institute, but it's been recruiting some key research staff in the areas of physical activity and the built environment, healthy ageing. And so I'd just like to give you a little bit of an overview of the research institute that I'm based at the moment, and then I'll look at two projects that I'm currently involved in the Australian context. The research that we conduct at the Institute for Health and Ageing has a number of themes. If it'll allow me to link through. The Institute for Health and Ageing is based in Melbourne, which is at the bottom of Australia, and it has a fairly large staff of about 50 people, comprising a range of professors with different disciplinary backgrounds, psychology, physiology, musculoskeletal conditions, epidemiology, biostatistics, the built environment, and so it's a broad, multidisciplinary focused research institute, of which physical activity and the built environment and the neighbourhood and psychological influences on the built environment are part of the mix of projects that we have at the Institute. More broadly, the Institute focuses on these types of themes to do with aged care. Obviously, it's a healthy ageing institute, so it's focusing on how we can improve the quality of aged care. It focuses on active living. How can we optimise health and well-being through physical activity? It focuses on issues to do with inequality. The Institute for Health and Ageing is funded by the Australian Catholic University, and Catholic universities are very interested in issues of social justice and inequality, and so that's a key theme from the Institute. We also focus on cognitive and mental health and musculoskeletal health. So it's quite a diverse range of programs that we focus on, and under each of these sort of research themes are a whole range of different people. Let's have a look at who's here at the Institute. Oh. Marita's our director. She's a psychologist with a lot of work in body image research. You'll notice myself there in the middle. We've just recently had Jim Salas start with us at the Institute for Health and Ageing, which has been amazing to have Jim working with us there. We have other names you may be aware of: Takemi Sugiyama, who does a lot of work in built environment and physical activity. He's based there as well. These other people may not mean much to you, but I'm focusing on those that probably do. No, these are all other researchers doing different things within the Institute. But my main area within the Institute is looking at the built environment and physical activity, and how we can actually change environments, intervene in built environments to influence physical activity participation, both for leisure time physical activity and recreational type physical activity. It's an exciting institute to be involved in because it's young. There's a lot of energy about the institute, and we've just managed to recruit an excellent team of people. Esther Seren is also at the Institute for Health and Ageing. She does a lot of work with Jim Salas on the IPEN project. And so Jim and Esther and Takimi and myself represent a fairly strong group of people at the Institute for Health and Ageing, focusing on active living, the built environment and physical activity, cognition and brain health, and the built environment and the neighbourhood environment. We've just got a large project funded that looks at how the neighbourhood environment might influence cognition and psychological well-being. So it's a very interesting place to work with a lot of strong projects and strong people. It's also co-located with other strong research institutes in Melbourne, like the RMIT, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, where Billy Giles Corti is based, and Neville Owen is not far away as well. These are names that you're probably familiar with in the physical activity world. All of these people are co-located in Melbourne. So not only within the institute do we have a really good, strong team to focus on physical activity and health and well-being, but also very closely located, we have other strong international researchers who focus on issues to do with sedentary behaviour and physical activity and the built environment. What I'd like to do now is just show you a couple of projects that I'm involved in, that I'm one of the leaders of. And the first is a National Health and Medical Research Council. It's the main funding body for health research in Australia. And it funded us a couple of years ago to set up a Centre for Research Excellence in healthy, livable communities. This project is led by Billy Giles Corti. I'm the second chief investigator of the project. It's a very large multi-million-dollar project that brings together key researchers across Australia to examine that central question about how can we build better neighbourhoods, better communities, more active neighbourhoods to facilitate health and well-being. One of the challenges with this institute, and I guess it's a challenge more broadly that we face, is how do we get our evidence into policy? And one of the key themes of the focus of this Centre for Research Excellence is the question of how can we translate the work that we do as researchers and get it into policy, because that's where it makes a difference, into policy. But it's increasingly a challenge to do that. I'll skip a few slides here so I can come around to what we're trying to do. As part of our Centre for Excellence, what we're trying to do is that question there. How can we build better cities? How can we create more cohesive communities, more active, physically active communities? And what would facilitate those being translated into policy and practice? Because at the end of the day, that's why we're all doing what we do. We do the research because we hope it makes a difference to people's lives. And so this Centre for Research Excellence was set up for that purpose. I will probably skip these. There's an image that I would like to show you that I think is probably the... This is the overview of this Centre for Research Excellence. Now, what we're trying to do with this is ultimate goal is this here. To design better communities. But there are 5 themes for this large project that feed into that central goal of building livable, healthy communities. And the first theme is advancing measurement issues around the built environment attributes. How can we better measure the built environment? And how can we better align our built environment measures with policy, with government policy? Because we want to know whether government policy is working. And so we've designed this big project which brings together multiple data sets to investigate how closely our built environment measures are relative to policy. So we can actually evaluate policy. Are the policies working in ways that they were designed to work? The theme 2 is the theme that I lead. It's the causal inference theme. It's about understanding causal relationships between the neighbourhood environment, the built environment, and physical activity. We've known for many years that there is an association between the built environment and physical activity, but increasingly I think the evidence base needs to move more towards a causal evidence base. It'll strengthen the evidence base and be much more relevant for policy if we can demonstrate that changing the built environment changes behaviour. And I think that's a really key question that we're trying to address. And so the causal relationship theme is led by me at the Institute for Health and Ageing. The theme 3 is about environmental thresholds. If we're designing things for the built environment, how much of something do you need to bring about change in people? How much area of a parkland in a neighbourhood do you need? How much density do we need to bring about change? And so that's an important question about what are called thresholds. At what point does providing more parks in a neighbourhood result in no more further gain in activity? At what point does it sort of flatten out? It's an economics question as well, because if we can design neighbourhoods that have enough parks and people are active in them, providing more parks may not be very cost effective. So there's an economic issue here too as well that underpins that. And that feeds into theme 4. What increasingly in the Australian context, governments are wanting to know how much cost do we save? How many lives do we save? How much health is improved? How many dollars do we save by intervening in the built environment? And so increasingly governments and funding agencies are wanting to make sure that there is an economic analysis as part of the grant funding, so that we can undertake an analysis of the cost savings associated with changing the built environment, as well as the health gains, also economic gains. And then the theme 5, the last theme for this Centre for Research Excellence that I'm involved in, is about the translation. So Billy and Fiona Bull and people and Paula Hooper and others at the University of Western Australia are coming up with a whole range of policy initiatives about how do we translate the evidence into policy? How do we better engage with local government, state government, federal government to get the evidence into policy? What are the mechanisms by which we can translate the evidence? And all of these things are interrelated. All of those 5 themes from the Centre Research Excellence are interrelated, such that we, together, it's a synergistic thing. Together, those things feed into designing better, healthy neighbourhoods. So, the group is made up of a whole range of people with these sorts of backgrounds. The team is led, as I said, by Billy, with myself second, and other people there as well. It's a very strong team. We have international research fellows involved with the team, some of them whom you may already know, David Ogilvie. These are probably names that are potentially familiar to you. So, yes, it's quite a big international and national team that's focusing on this issue, and I'm sure some of these names are familiar to people around the table. I'll move now to look at another project that's related to this. So this work is done within the Institute for Health and Ageing. It's done at other universities as well, but my component, my theme 2, is done at the Institute for Health and Ageing. I'd also like now just to focus on another project that I'm involved in. This is the project that I'm leading. It's a very large national project. Let me just get this there. So it's as the title suggests, it's a study that focuses exclusively on designing better cities, better neighbourhoods. This is an empirically based project. I'm the chief investigator of the project. It's been funded now for over 10 years. It's essentially looking at how neighbourhood factors influence health and well-being, sedentary behaviour, psychological well-being, and a whole range of other health outcomes. I won't go through all of these slides because there's too many of them. I'll just capture the essence of the study. The study is conducted in Brisbane. Brisbane is here. It's the capital city of the state of Queensland. This is an image of Brisbane City. It's a very modern metropolitan city on the banks of the Brisbane River there. This is Brisbane here. That's the Brisbane City, and then that's the outskirts. That's the Brisbane River. The habitat study is based in the whole of the Brisbane local government area. I'll skip this slide. What we're trying to do with habitat, it's a multi-level longitudinal study. It's the largest study of its kind in the world. It's multi-level because it's interested in how neighbourhoods influence individuals. So we take measurements at the neighbourhood level, we take measurements at the individual level, and we follow those people over time. We've now followed them for 5 waves over 10 years, each time remeasuring the built environment and obviously remeasuring and capturing data from individuals. I won't go through all of this. It's a study of baby boomers. This is a large study, it's an ageing study, so it's a study of how people age in their neighbourhood and how people are ageing in a way that they can stay at home, in place, and become independent, stay independent. One of the challenges for healthy ageing is to keep people well and as they age and keep them in their homes, because that's where most people want to stay, and also to keep them active, physically active. So the contribution of physical activity to healthy ageing is an important theme for the habitat study. We focused on people who were aged 40 to 65 in 2007. That was baseline. Because this group, they're part of an ageing population, they're baby boomers. They have high rates of inactivity in this group, high rates of overweight and obesity. And at this point in time, of course, we start to see declines in a whole range of health outcomes. Emergence of chronic disease and greater use of the healthcare system. So we wanted to know how physical activity and sedentary behaviour and the neighbourhoods and the built environments that people lived in influenced these sorts of outcomes. So the primary aim of the study is to examine change. Again, my main and is in change in physical activity, although I do cross-sectional work. Most of my work is increasingly in longitudinal modelling and multi-level modelling to understand how the neighbourhood influences behaviour over time. So the habitat study focuses on physical activity, sedentary behaviour and health among mid-aged women over that period of time. And it's similar to a social ecological, it's underpinned by a social ecological model in that we're interested in the relative contributions of the built environment, of the social factors of the social environment, as well as psychological and demographic and other individual characteristics. Because the physical activity is influenced by factors that operate at multiple levels, right? And so what this study set out to do was to try and measure and capture the determinants of physical activity at multiple levels, to then try and understand what are the relative contributions of each of the levels and how do the different levels interact. The logical detail that we don't need to look at the moment because we just don't have the time to look at it. I'll come through to Habitat has a number of natural experiments built into it. One of the key, it's based on 200 neighbourhoods in Brisbane, so it's 200 discrete neighbourhoods in Brisbane and 11,000 people, so it's a fairly large study. We also have a number of natural experiments built into the study. Like the bike hire scheme. I see you have a bike hire scheme here as well in the CFI. We wanted to evaluate for the bike hire scheme. One of the key issues that we're looking at is residential mobility. When people move, they move from a neighbourhood that has certain characteristics and they move to a new neighbourhood that has different characteristics. What is the influence of that move on physical activity, on health and well-being? Because you've changed your environment as a result of moving. So the move becomes the intervention. And so we're looking at how moving changes physical activity and other outcomes. So for some of the people in the study, the neighbourhood changes around them and they don't move. And we look at the influence of the changing built environment and social environment on people's behaviour if they stay at the same address. But those people who do move, we also follow them. And we're able then to look at how changing your neighbourhood influences your health and well-being, which is quite a powerful little design, really. We have a whole range, the study involves a whole range of survey topics that's measured identically now over 5 waves. We have a very large array of built environment measures that we get. We have contracts in place with local councils, with the state government, Queensland Police Department, the energy companies. They provide us with a lot of objectively measured built environment, from which I have a team of GIS people who develop GIS measures of the built environment so that we can look at that and how it influences physical activity over time. Here are just some examples of the types of built environment measures that we have. And there are many others. These are just some examples of them. And we have these measured identically at 5 waves now over 10 years. So we can measure change in the built environment. How does your built environment change over time? And how does that affect individual level change? What are the interactions between the two? There's also a clinical sub-study where we measure physical function among just under 1,000 people, where we put them through all of these physical function tests. This again is a longitudinal study. It's a nested longitudinal study within a bigger observational study. So we put them through these tests. So far we've collected 2 waves on this, on physical function measured objectively. So these people also undertake effective functioning tests. We look at cardiovascular health, height and waist circumference, and they also wear accelerometers and GPS devices for 7 days. So it's quite a big sub-study in a way, given that we've got quite a few hundred people there who are wearing these devices. We've now measured them twice over 2 waves, and we'll be doing the 3rd wave in the next year or so. So it's quite an exciting sub-study within the broader habitat study. Again, focusing on physical activity, sedentary behaviour, and how the built environment can influence these now objectively measured outcomes. Because one of the things that happens as we age is physical function declines. And we want to understand the rate of decline in physical function and how physical activity can influence that. Excuse me. My last slide will be this. As I mentioned, the focus of habitat is on change, not on cross-sectional. Although we do cross-sectional studies from habitat, and I have a number of PhD students who are doing some cross-sectional work, the focus is about within individual change. How do individuals change over time? And how does the physical activity of people change as they age? How does their sedentary behaviour change as they age? How does their health change as they age? And what are the relationships between physical activity and health as people age? And what are the predictors of that? So it's a complex model, but real life is complex. And so we're wanting to know the predictors of within individual change. How do people change over time? But we're also interested in between individual and between neighbourhood differences. So how do rich and poor people differ over time? How do neighbourhoods that are well designed for built environments change over time, and the physical activity of those people compared with neighbourhoods where it's not very well designed for physical activity? So we're interested in within individual change, as well as between individual changes and between neighbourhood changes in physical activity and a whole range of outcomes. I'll probably stop there because I've probably overstayed my welcome, but thank you.
We'll have time to discuss later. Thank you. And a nossa última, então, apresentação, antes de iniciarmos a discussão, vai ser da professora Jack Lund. Lembrando a todos que às 11 horas nós vamos iniciar uma palestra que vai ser proferida pelo professor Gavin, e essa palestra a gente vai oferecer a tradução sequencial, certo? Jack, it's your turn. Feel free. Oh, we need to change? Yes. Sorry about that. Do you want to have some water before? Oh, maybe I choose. This is cashew juice. Guava. You may
So
put
just, I advance the slides, just hit the arrow.
Sorry?
Just hit the arrow to advance the slides? This
Yes.
one?
You can use this one.
Okay.
Sorry. No problem. No problem. Take your time.
Good morning. I also want to thank Mauro for welcoming me to the University of Pernambuco. This is my first trip to Brazil, and so far it's been wonderful. I've appreciated the hospitality and the warm and friendly people that I've met so far. I live in the world of teacher education. I'm very different than some of the previous people who have presented here. My goal is to create teachers who are very effective, because we believe that a lot of the change for physical activity as you age rests with the students. And if we can have quality physical education and develop student competence at an early age and confidence in their abilities to do things, then we believe that it is going to make a difference as they age and they have those habits and they maintain those habits. Because we know that it's easier once you are physically active and strong and healthy, it's easier to maintain that than it is to wait until you're 65 and try to get back what you should have had when you were 5 years old. I am involved in some projects with my national association. One of my hats that I'm currently wearing is the past president of our National Association for Physical Education. It's called SHAPE America, Society of Health and Physical Educators. And we recently, in the last month, have launched a huge project that we think is going to make a difference about quality of physical education. And I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. But for today, I'd like to introduce my university to you. I don't think that a lot of you have ever heard of it, Georgia State University. It's located in the middle of downtown Atlanta. And it's a very large university. It has over 50,000 students. And we have 250 degree programs with 100 different degree areas. We have in the university 11 colleges, and in those colleges we have a College of Public Health that does research like the individuals previously have presented. We have a geriatric center that does research on aging. We have psychological centers that work on different aspects of physical activity. And then we have my department, who has differences that are research expectations that I'll go over that in a little bit more depth here. So my department in the university is the Kinesiology and Health Department, and we are located in a building called the Sports Arena. And it was the badminton venue for the 1996 Olympics. I believe it was 2 years ago. I had visitors from Brazil that I met with, and they were interested in some of the work that my department had done during the 96 Olympics, where we tested a lot of the athletes that came in. We had 15 different countries that we tested. So they were interested in finding out more about the testing so that they could do that work when the Brazil hosted the 2016 Olympics. In our facility, we share it with athletics, and we have a huge sport medicine training facility, the locker rooms and weight rooms for athletics. But we also have exercise science research labs, and we have a gymnasium where we teach and prepare future physical education teachers, and that is one of the things that I do. We are located in the College of Education, and we are sort of what I would term the redheaded stepchild, because everybody else is concerned with educating children and cognitive, and we physically are located in another building, so it's easy for them to forget about us. So it's up to us to keep on reminding them that we are part of the College of Education and that we play a strong role in the education of children. In my department, we have exercise physiology, and they are doing research on muscle injury. One of our researchers is also doing muscle injury of cardiac muscle. And some of the things that he has found about skeletal muscle also, they believe, and they are working on seeing whether or not they apply to cardiac muscle. We have a biomechanics department that works on fall prevention for older people. There's a new researcher that we just hired that is working on the influence of balance training for older adults, and as you all know, that a lot of times adults, they will suffer a fall and break bones, and then it's sort of a downhill cycle from there. So we're really excited about that research. Alex also does research on biomechanics and prosthesis, people who have lost limbs, and he has done work with children and also with adults. We also have a population of military who are coming back out of military service who have lost limbs, and the research areas center around that. My research in teacher education primarily talks about assessment in physical education, because a lot of times it's not assessed. We don't know whether or not students have learned. We teach, but we're not sure whether or not they have really learned things on a permanent basis. So I am doing research right now on different types of assessments and also accountability in physical education. Another area that we are working with, I and a couple of colleagues, we have a model in the United States called the CSPAP, Comprehensive School Physical Activity Program. And there's different components of that. It's the activity in the school that you were talking about earlier. It's about physical education. It's about community involvement, getting the parents involved in physical activity, because a lot of times in our built environment in the school, we have ready-made facilities and we have a good population. So we need to figure out how to get the parents involved with activity. But the part that we're doing research right now on is the teachers themselves, classroom teachers. And what we have found in our country is that our teachers are highly stressed. It now is a profession that is more stressful than nursing and medicine, just because of all the things that are happening in the schools. So a year ago we did a study and worked with teachers and did an intervention of getting teachers, a way to get teachers active. And we found that half of the teachers who wanted to participate in the study were unable to, because they couldn't meet the risk factors of the PAR-Q that we gave them. And so of the 50% that we lost before we even started, we were able to make gains as far as physical activity. We found some things that worked and some things that didn't work. And we are continuing another phase of the study this year, and we're working on implementing a school program where teachers can be involved in we're going to teach them a game called catch ball. And it's sort of like volleyball, but you catch the ball, and it's a long story. And so after I finish talking, go ahead and get on YouTube and you can watch people play. All right, so that's enough about the research. What I want to do is I want to tell you some things about Georgia State University in Atlanta, and I want to invite you to visit. The international program is very eager to have faculty and students join us. We have lots of research projects and different programs that I think you would find interesting. So I'm going to introduce Atlanta to you right now. At Georgia State, we have lots of sports. Sport is very important in my culture. We have a variety of sports, men's and women, and here's some examples. Our claim to fame with basketball was 2 years ago in the NCAA tournament. Our coach fell off a chair. He got so excited during a basketball game because we defeated the third seed in our bracket. And so the chair actually got a Facebook page where people would go on and view the chair. So it was kind of cute, but anyway. We also are new to football, our American football, and Turner Field, which was the home of one of the Olympic venues, is now home to where our football team plays football. And it's where Hank Aaron broke the baseball record for the number of home runs. And so there's statues and lots of interesting memorabilia for those of you who are sports fans. Turner Field is about a mile from the building where I am. And all of the things that I'm going to show you in the next few slides are within walking distance of my building where I work. So here's the map of Georgia State. It is right in downtown Atlanta. It's not a typical university campus. It's intermixed with lots of tall buildings. So you'll see bank buildings, and then you'll see a physical education structure or a classroom structure. And so we're sort of intermingled with downtown Atlanta. Some facts about Atlanta. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. Our total population, we're about 5.5 million. We were the birthplace of civil rights in our country. During the early 50s when things started changing, and we had a Brown versus the Board of Education where we got rid of the separate but equal idea of educating students. A lot of the changes that happened as far as civil rights and our African Americans started there in Atlanta. And I'll show you a picture in just a minute of one of the parks that we have. As you know, the Olympic Games were held there in 1996, and we have the world's largest 10K race on July 4th. We have about 60,000 people who run through the streets of Atlanta. It's very hot on the 4th of July, but they have a good time, and they have lots of refreshments during and after the race. Those of you who have, if you've ever watched CNN, CNN is located about half a mile from my building, and you can visit that and see the broadcast going on. The Centennial Olympic Park is also very, very close. In the wintertime, it gets close enough to, or it gets cool enough to ice skate, and so you can rent ice skates and go skating on Olympic Park. As a bottom slide, you can see that there's fountains there, and the kids during the summertime will run through the fountains and cool off. But it's a beautiful venue and lots of history connected with it. We have a new aquarium, and I just read online last night that our beluga whale exhibit is closed because one of the mothers is about ready to give birth. One of the individuals from Home Depot, which is a huge hardware store, donated $250 million to build this facility, and you actually can walk underneath the tank of fish, and it's about the size of a soccer pitch. It's about 100 meters across, and it's lots and lots of fish and lots of exhibits from around the world. The World of Coke, those of you who enjoy that beverage, that's founded in Atlanta, and it's right, the World of Coke Museum is right next to the aquarium, so you can get some beverages and then go to the aquarium and then go on to the Civil Rights facility. There's a Center for Civil Rights located there as well. The Georgia World Congress Center is a place where they have lots of conferences and exhibits, and it's right next to, we have a new College Football Hall of Fame, and so you can, if you were an American football fan, you could don the equipment and get lots of pictures taken when you go through that museum. Underground Atlanta is a place where a lot of women and men, a lot of women like to go because they're shopping, and it's where we pick up MARTA, which is our mass transit for trains that take us lots of places in Atlanta. In the New Year's Eve, instead of dropping the crystal ball like they do in New York City, we dropped the peach, because Georgia is known as the peach tree state, so we dropped the peach in Atlanta. The Martin Luther King Center is a federal park, and it was established in 1968 by Coretta Scott King after the assassination of her husband. There's all kinds of historic documents that you can find, and you can trace the history of our civil rights movement in the United States. We have a new football stadium, and the football stadium is named by Mercedes-Benz. It has a retractable roof, and it's where our Falcons play, and we have a new Major League Soccer team in Atlanta called the Atlanta United. And for their first season, they did very well, and a lot of sellout games. So we're excited to be with the football that the rest of you share. Okay, so what I just showed you was all within walking distance, within about a mile of where I work. You also can get around in Atlanta with MARTA and visit the Fernbank Museum of Natural History, where there's dinosaurs and IMAX theaters, and see all kinds of interesting exhibits. The Carter Center, many years ago in the 80s, we had a president named Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And his presidential center is located in Atlanta, and he will actually show up every once in a while for visits and different events. I don't know if you're familiar with Habitat for Humanity. Have you ever heard of that program, where they go into low-income areas and build houses for people? Jimmy Carter was one that was very instrumental in getting Habitat for Humanity going, and he still goes out and pounds nails on new projects. So he's quite an amazing guy. He's in his 90s now. We have ballet. We have the Atlanta Ballet, and they are wonderful. I've seen many performances of them. They have seasons in the spring and the fall, and they're a lot of fun to watch. The Fox Theater is an old venue. It was a former Masonic temple, and so when you walk into it, you can see stars on the roof. But a lot of the various plays and everything come into it, and it's just a beautiful facility. It's very nice just to go and watch and see, the venue itself, let alone what's on stage. We have a museum of art, and they have exhibits that come in. I was able a couple of years ago to see the Da Vinci exhibit. A lot of people, Atlanta hosts a lot of art for people, and the High Museum is a very nice place to visit, and it's also very close. And Lenox Square is used to be one of the largest shopping malls in the United States. It doesn't hold claim to that anymore, but it's a very large shopping center, and you can find almost any kind of food that you want to eat or any kind of things that you want to buy. When I have visitors from Asia, they always stop by and go to the Apple store and pick up the latest devices that are available there. We have botanical gardens, and we have a Chihuly art exhibit there. It's now, and it's very, very beautiful. It changes through the seasons. In the Christmas time, there's a lot of lights. There's an orchid garden there, and it's a very beautiful and restful place to walk around. We have the zoo, and at the zoo we have pandas from China. They give birth every once in a while, and so we have new panda cubs. There's a carousel there. I'm looking forward to taking my granddaughter there at the Christmas season when she comes visit me, but there's all kinds of things, and again, it's quite close to where I work. We also have baseball, American baseball, and there's a new park that was built close. And we play Six Flags Over Georgia. It's a theme park that we can go and ride rides and see all kinds of interactive exhibits. Stone Mountain Park is very close to where I live. It's a piece of granite, and it's 1.2 miles to climb to the top. For those of you who think it's a little bit too far to go straight up this piece of granite, there's a tram that goes to the top, and it's a beautiful view of the area. And there's a laser show that happens in the evenings, and during 4th of July and our Independence Day, they have big celebrations and fireworks and so on. We have river fun. We go canoeing and we go tubing on the Chattahoochee River. The Chattahoochee River flows right through Atlanta, and again, it's a very fun way to relax and enjoy the area. So, in closing, I would like to invite you all to come visit me at Atlanta, and if there is anything I can do to help you, I would love to welcome you. You've been to visit me a little bit, but not stayed at my house. I have a wonderful bed and breakfast. No, not really. Unofficial. Just for my friends. So thank you for having me. And again, I brought some brochures if any of you are interested in finding out more about Georgia State and the kind of programming that we offer. And I look forward to sharing my research with you tomorrow.
Nós tivemos então as 4 apresentações e agora eu ia precisar... Rodrigo, você pode me ajudar? Jorge também, se Jorge puder sentar junto de um deles para poder traduzir para inglês o que nós vamos fazer. A gente tá improvisando aqui, viu? Um monte de coisa aqui, porque isso é novo para todo mundo. Então, nós vamos agora... Jorge, você está com o seu celular aí? Eu fiz umas chamadas aí para as perguntas, via também usando o WhatsApp. E acho que agora a gente pode colocar também o pessoal aqui da UFPB, caso eles queiram conectar. Será que a gente tem que pedir ali uma ajuda a Sabino para projetar? Ok. So I would like to say thank you for all of you, Jackie, Georgie, Lars, and Gavin. I think the idea was exactly that. We would like to have an idea about the institutions you are representing here. We have some faculty members of our program and also some coordinators of the other programs we have in this area. Like Ferdinando is the coordinator of the PE program in the countryside. We have a federal university called Univasp, so he is representing them here. We supposed to have people from the Federal University of Paraíba in João Pessoa who are taking part of this session, and we have now chance to open for discussions, for ideas. I think we have 4 different presentations, and this is the idea we have at the beginning, to provide all of you some ideas about who are visiting us and what we can do to make some kind of collaboration in the future. So it's open for everyone to make any kind of question we can translate to help. But before we start, I would like to ask everybody here to clap our guests because they really did a very nice job. Thank you. Ok, então agora nós temos perguntas aqui. Eu encomendei perguntas até pelo celular. Então, o professor Marcelo vai fazer uma pergunta bem caprichada para Jack. Todos, inclusive, I would like also to offer the opportunity to Jack, Lars, Georgie, and Gavin, if you want to share some questions about the presentations the others made, it's up to you, okay? It's open, Ferdinando and the others. Any question? Can you close the session and start the other one? Where is Georgie? Georgie supposed to... Foi chamar alguém? Eu acho que ele foi chamar a Sabino para ligar com o pessoal de João Pessoa, né? Mas eu acho que eu sei fazer isso. Não sei. Okay, I will start. Gavin, I know that this is not your first visit to Brazil. You have been here before in 2014, if I remember. Have you been cooperating with someone in Brazil to make any kind of effort in terms of research? Yeah. Could you share with us some information about that? Good.
I was invited to come to Brazil by Alex Florendo. Alex Florendo, as many of you may know, is based at Sao Paulo University. Alex was for 1 year based at in Melbourne, at the University of Melbourne, and that's where I first met Alex via Billy Giles Cortai. And Alex and I started to collaborate on a couple of papers, one from the Sao Paulo Health Survey that Alex is the chief investigator on, and we've had a paper published looking at the contribution of the relative distance to built environment features and physical activity, and walking in particular. And so we developed a nice collaboration when Alex was in Melbourne. When he came back to Sao Paulo after 1 year, we continued that collaboration, and we are now writing more papers from the Sao Paulo Health Survey. And in addition, Alex is writing a paper from the Habitat Project, one of the projects I showed you before there. So we have a nice collaboration already being developed there. Last week I was at Sao Paulo University, where I gave a couple of lectures on healthy ageing, on the built environment and physical activity. But I also ran a one-day course in Sao Paulo University on multi-level analysis, statistical analysis, because that's one of my main areas of research, and that was well attended by a range of PhD students and postdoctoral fellows that Alex is involved with. Alex and I have also put in a number of grant applications through your granting agency here in Brazil, with the idea of extending the Sao Paulo Health Survey from a cross-sectional study to a longitudinal study. We are awaiting the announcement of that. Maybe towards the end of November we will hear about the outcome of that. If that happens, that would be fantastic, because I will then be able to use my experience of running longitudinal studies and help and assist and collaborate with Alex in terms of extending his cross-sectional work to a longitudinal study.
Let me try this one.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I forget.
No problem. Então, o Guilherme estava explicando, e essa parte a gente vai traduzir para a principal colaboração que tem com o Jané, né? E a hora que tivessem dois, um em cada lado. Não tem não, né, Arthur? Como botar dois, não? Então, assim, a principal colaboração que ele tem mantido aqui no Brasil é com o professor Alex Florindo, da USP. Essa, inclusive, é a razão dele estar no Brasil, né? Ele veio para trabalhar durante uma semana com ele em São Paulo. Eles têm colaborado principalmente na redação conjunta de artigos científicos, e eles agora começaram também uma fase em que eles estão fazendo a submissão de projetos de pesquisa para tentar conseguir financiamento para outras ações. Uma das razões principais para a gente pensar na Austrália como um potencial parceiro é o fato de nós termos hoje, através da Embaixada Australiana, um programa que permite mobilidade de estudantes. É um programa chamado Endeavour, uma coisa assim. Inclusive, nós tivemos esse ano já uma apresentação da Embaixada da Austrália aqui, explicando como é que funciona e tal. Então, é uma parceria possível. E alguma pergunta surgiu? Senão eu vou estender as perguntas aos demais para que eles próprios possam... Fernando, surgir alguma coisa? Marcelo. Tá? Pronto, ok. Aí vocês vêm e fazem. Jackie, I will say something about what's going on with Georgia State University. 2 years ago, as Jack told in her presentation, 2 anos atrás, né, uma delegação aqui da Universidade de Pernambuco visitou a Georgia State University para tentar fazer um acordo de colaboração amplo da Universidade de Pernambuco com aquela instituição. E, na época, foi uma delegação constituída principalmente por o pessoal da assessoria internacional e professores da Poli, da área de engenharia. Para surpresa deles, eles, quando chegaram para fazer a visita, eles não foram visitar só a Georgia State, eles não têm engenharia. Mas descobriram lá que eles tinham esse programa de educação física que era muito forte, e aí eles tentaram articular uma visita, e eu tive em março fazendo essa visita a algumas universidades, e conheci a professora Jack, que, como vocês puderam ver aqui na apresentação, é uma pessoa assim, de uma simplicidade, de um carinho na hora de receber as pessoas assim muito grande. Então, ela é uma pessoa que lida diretamente com questões assim ligadas à educação e à educação física em especial, uma pessoa reconhecida nacionalmente nos Estados Unidos pelo trabalho que ela faz na área de avaliação da aprendizagem nas aulas de educação física. Ela ganhou recentemente um dos principais prêmios dados a pesquisadores na área de educação física lá nos Estados Unidos. Eu divulguei isso, inclusive, na página, né? Então, a vinda da professora Jack, nesse momento, é para abrir portas, porque nós temos um projeto aprovado através do professor Marcílio, o Grupo Etnos, né? Nós temos um projeto aprovado com financiamento da FACEP, que vai permitir que nós possamos tê-la no próximo ano, junto com mais alguns professores de lá, para, primeiro, fazer um workshop com ideias de desenvolvimento de pesquisa conjunto, e esse tipo de empreendimento tem que ser algo que sai do muro da Universidade de Pernambuco e pode, né, de alguma maneira, beneficiar também as demais instituições. Isso, inclusive, está no projeto que foi submetido à FACEP, porque era uma demanda deles, né, não atender exclusivamente a nossa instituição, mas também a outras. So, thank you. Jackie, tomorrow, eu estou misturando as duas coisas. Algumas vezes eu quero falar para eles, algumas vezes... enfim, Rodrigo, talvez você precise traduzir para ela. Amanhã, a professora Jack vai continuar essa colaboração conosco, fazendo 2 palestras e também uma reunião de trabalho com professores mais interessados nessa discussão pedagógica, onde eles vão ver possibilidades de cooperação, discutir calendário de como é que esse seminário vai acontecer no próximo ano. Jackie, would you like to add something? I tried to make a kind of synthesis about what's going on with Georgia State University. The first visit of our faculty members over there 2 years ago, you mentioned that. And also I have visited the Georgia State at the beginning of this year, and now you are coming to make this first visit. So we are starting this collaboration, and in some point I hope we can continue with some more ideas and projects. And
Georgia State is very interesting.
Can you come? Yeah. I appreciate that, Jackie.
Georgia State sent me with documents. Hopefully they want to sign an MOU. Originally, when you were here before, there was talk about having your master's students come and do some work and then go on into a PhD and then come back to Brazil to finish the dissertation and have a joint dissertation or joint doctoral program with Georgia State and the University of Pernambuco. I don't know whether that program still exists or not, but that is something that our faculty is interested in. I had the opportunity to meet with your teacher educators here, spent a day in fascinating conversations with curriculum and assessment and the problems that we're having in the schools with getting enough physical education and the physical activity programs afterwards. So I'm hoping personally to have collaborations with your department about that and some of the things that we're doing and some of the inroads that we can make. My connections with our national association, I think that we're doing some important things there as far as professional development for teachers. And I think that we can learn from you and you can learn from us. So I'm hoping that those kind of collaborations, I can facilitate those collaborations beyond the university. So, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, but I have a suggestion. I was inspired a little bit of what you said, Gavin, a moment ago, because we have actually worked quite a bit with the environment. And I know that you have some initiatives here in Recife which could be interesting. We got $150 million to build bike lanes and walking path in a very small part of the city in the western Norway with only 10,000 citizens. So that's actually quite a lot of money. And we have some quite good projects from Denmark where we have looked at trends in biking related to the different environmental changes that has happened, which is described in detail, because the thing is that a city doesn't get money to build it unless they apply in the state, so the state will pay half, which means that it's actually quite well described. And then here in Recife, every Sunday they have a huge thing where they have more than 100 kilometers of the ordinary road where they separate half of the road for biking. But that's more in the leisure kind of biking type, where ours is commuting simply to work. Half of all trips in Copenhagen are done by bike today. Half of them, which is a major thing. But I could see some collaboration between, let's say that you try to evaluate this biking on Sundays here in Recife. We would very much like to evaluate the initiative of $150 million in this little city in Western Norway. Our problem is to find funding for the research part, because that's a major issue and it's very difficult.
You have the money for the environmental change, but not
yes, exactly. We have this huge amount of money for the environmental change, but they didn't even put 1% to the side to give to the evaluation of this, proper scientific evaluation. So if you have some good suggestions here, they would be very welcome, I would say. But at least here's an idea to what could be some kind of collaboration in the future about environment and active travel, and thing like the biking in the Recife.
Let's see what Gavin think about that. Então, eu acho que vocês acompanharam, né, a Jack, né, voltando um pouquinho no tempo, nas falas que foram feitas, a Jack estava comentando que ela trouxe, na verdade, até o documento já formal para ser assinado, porque eu comentei na visita que eu fiz assim, que a gente tinha que concretizar algumas ações, e uma das ações possíveis de imediato era a gente começar a fazer intercâmbio de estudantes, mobilidade de estudantes. Então, a gente discutiu muito naquela ocasião que, por exemplo, nós tivemos uma experiência no passado com a recepção de estudantes americanos aqui no Brasil, em que a gente oferecia cursos de português com imersão, que as pessoas ficavam na casa de famílias aqui, e isso interessou muito naquele momento a eles. Então, tem várias ideias que a gente precisa sentar, pensar e começar a operacionalizar, né, para fazer as coisas acontecer e gerar benefício de parte a parte. Então, há interesse mútuo, e quando o interesse ele é mútuo, não é unilateral, as coisas são mais fáceis de acontecer. O Lars estava fazendo uma intervenção comentando, né, que eles têm um projeto grande numa cidadezinha pequena lá da Noruega, onde ele está trabalhando agora, para fazer uma transformação no ambiente com a instalação de ciclofaixas, ciclovias, etc., mas que não tem um tostão para avaliar se essa modificação ambiental ela traz benefícios à saúde dessa população. Então, ele vê nisso e nas ciclofaixas que a gente tem no domingo, que ele já foi conhecer, já pedalou, etc., duas oportunidades para fazer pesquisa. Então, é essa a sugestão dele, pensar em alguma coisa que, de repente, possa unir a expertise do Gavin com esses estudos econômicos, né, de mudança ambiental, o que eles têm lá na Noruega e na Dinamarca de dados sobre essas mudanças ambientais, e também o que nós temos feito aqui na nossa realidade, em menor escala, muito mais com um apelo de lazer do que de trabalho, de locomoção mesmo, de modal de locomoção, mas enfim. Nós temos uma pergunta, não foi isso, enviada pelo Marcela. Vamos lá. We got some questions from the audience outside.
Well, we received some questions from Marcela. Actually, it's a question of myself as well. So it's a question about the PhD and master's program. That's a question for all of you. If you have any specific program for students, international students, and how does it work? So we have to pay some tax, or you have any kind of scholarship or something like that?
It's for all of you. So
Shall I speak in Portuguese or
go ahead, Portuguese.
Em português de Portugal. Segue. Nós temos, eu já disse há pouco, temos 3 programas de doutorado, os que estão relacionados diretamente mais comigo, ou pelo menos com a equipe com que eu trabalho mais próximo, é o de exercício de saúde e eventualmente o de fisioterapia. Não há para estudantes internacionais ou para estudantes estrangeiros, não há bolsas ou scholarships internas do governo português, pelo menos na questão normal dos projetos financiados, que é a Fundação para a Ciência e Tecnologia, mas, por exemplo, os estudantes brasileiros, eu sei que o programa agora acabou, havia o Ciências Sem Fronteiras, nós temos, pelo menos tínhamos 6, 7 alunos que estavam no programa doutoral pelo Ciências Sem Fronteiras, fora aqueles que ganharam outras bolsas da CAPES ou mesmo da CNPq a trabalhar connosco. Portanto, tivemos alguns estudantes internacionais, por exemplo, da Tailândia, tivemos de Israel, que são aplicações ou candidaturas em programas específicos da sua própria realidade. Neste momento nós não temos scholarship específica a partir do projeto de doutorado ou do governo português, não existe, mas naturalmente que há a candidatura para bolsas ao nível dos próprios governos e protocolos de colaboração, eventualmente de projetos que também pode ser uma possibilidade. Mas vocês aqui também têm muita facilidade, desculpem, isso é ok, come on, que é o problema do sanduíche, que é mais facilitador.
At Georgia State, our doctoral students, it's very competitive to get accepted into the program, but once they're accepted into the program, they're given support. There's different types of support at the dean's office. There's a fellowship, scholarship that supports people very well. In the department, people work in labs. We have research projects that they become part of, and they also teach. We currently have a doctoral program in the pedagogy area, and he is a tennis player, so he is teaching some of our tennis methods courses and so on for our majors. We have a mentoring program to help people learn how to teach, so it's not that they teach and are just thrown into the deep end of the pool. They are assisted with their teaching, so they're supported professionally as well as monetarily. So there are scholarships and programs available.
Eu acho que é só uma tradução para ficar claro para quem de repente está assistindo, não teve. um contato mais próximo com a Jack. O processo de seleção para fazer o doutorado lá na Geórgia, ele é muito competitivo. Então, eles têm poucas vagas e essas vagas elas são muito disputadas. Normalmente, quem consegue ser aprovado para fazer o doutorado tem algum tipo de apoio. E esse apoio pode ser um apoio integral ou um apoio que é dependente de algum tipo de contrapartida do estudante de doutorado, que pode ser requisitado a fazer algum trabalho em laboratório, etc. Ela tem, eu conheci lá quando tive, no início do ano, um estudante brasileiro que conseguiu entrar lá com uma vaga, um ex-tenista, né, um ex-jogador de tênis que foi para os Estados Unidos para jogar tênis, né, e depois que terminou a carreira, ele começou a carreira acadêmica e entrou no doutorado orientando dela. Um rapaz de Brasília, e que é também um contato muito interessante para qualquer brasileiro que for até lá, porque ele já vive na cidade, conhece os professores, então depois eu também posso compartilhar esse contato dele. Lars, I know that the program, the doctoral program in your institution just started.
Yes and no, because all our doctoral students, they get their education in Oslo at our institute.
Okay, so explain that over here.
Yeah. No, our doctoral program is actually connected to our institute in Oslo. So our doctoral students in the rural Sogndal, they get their courses in Oslo. They're working at our place, but I'm, for example, supervisor for some of them, but that's because I have 20% position in Oslo. So they own the program, you could say. We have our own master program. So that's a bit different. And the collaboration, we are applying for funding right now. That's Sogndal mainly, but a little bit Oslo too. But they will probably come to Sogndal, and we have our own master program. So that's not a problem. Yeah.
Então, o Lars estava explicando, e eu até já conhecia a história também, mas é bom que a gente termina pegando mais detalhes, né? Ele tem, na verdade, dois vínculos. Ele tem um vínculo que é um vínculo de tempo integral com essa universidade, nesse lugar que chama... hard to pronounce this name, is Sogndal?
Sogndal.
Easy. Not easy. Então, essa instituição ela é nova, ele foi contratado para ir lá exatamente para isso, para fazer a instituição se desenvolver. Ela só tem um curso de mestrado, então todos os estudantes de doutorado que trabalham lá, eles vêm de um contrato que ele tem de tempo parcial numa universidade em Oslo, que é onde ele recebe, né, ele admite estudantes de doutorado. Então, eles são admitidos em Oslo, e depois desenvolvem os trabalhos de pesquisa nessa outra instituição. E nós, esse ano, né, tivemos um edital da CAPES específico para a cooperação entre instituições brasileiras e norueguesas. A gente está esperando o resultado, são só 5 projetos que podem ser aprovados no Brasil. Eles vão agora, no final do mês, fazer a reunião bilateral, né, binacional, para decidir quais são os projetos que serão financiados. E nós submetemos um projeto de cooperação entre o Programa de Educação Física, aqui da UPE, mas que já tem assim, ramificações para atender outros programas, se o projeto for aprovado, e essas 2 universidades norueguesas, com 3 ou 4 pesquisadores de lá. Então, esse processo está em andamento e talvez a gente tenha um resultado positivo. A gente tem que aguardar. Gavin, can you come and we can start to think about the next presentation? Do you receive any doctoral students in your department at the Aging Institute? It's something that they would like to know.
Yes, we certainly have opportunities for doctoral students to study from overseas at the Institute for Health and Ageing. It tends to be a much more complicated application process than with domestic students. But nonetheless, students do study from overseas to do their postdoctoral programs. We haven't had very many because the Institute for Health and Ageing has only just started a couple of years ago, so it's still quite young. I personally have a number of scholarships available for PhD students to study with me. I've filled a number of those scholarships now with students, but there are other scholarships available to study in the areas that I work in. So yes, we certainly welcome applications from students, masters and PhD level, and we have funding to support visitation for staff and students as well, visiting staff. So yes, I think there's a lot of opportunity for PhDs at the Institute for Health and Ageing.
Let me translate and then we can start the other one. Então, o Gavin estava explicando que o instituto dele começou recentemente, tem 2 anos, né, esse instituto de pesquisa na área de envelhecimento, e ele pessoalmente, com os financiamentos de pesquisa que conseguiu, eles têm lá o financiamento para receber tanto estudantes de doutorado quanto que queiram fazer o doutorado pleno, né, quanto estudantes que queiram fazer intercâmbio, fazer o tal do doutorado de sanduíche que a gente tem no Brasil. E também tem a possibilidade de ter algum financiamento para receber professores também, que queiram fazer cooperação ou intercâmbio. Então, é uma outra também oportunidade disponível. Todos os contatos dos professores que fizeram parte dessa reunião, eles vão ser compartilhados, tá, com todos vocês na sequência. Nós vamos colocar essas informações numa espécie de sumário que nós vamos disponibilizar na página do programa daqui a alguns dias, tá bom? Eu vou, sem interrupção, em função do horário, já são 11h20, começar a apresentação que o professor Gavin se dispôs a fazer hoje, né, uma palestra sobre um dos temas, né, que ele nos apresentou como opção. E essa apresentação a gente vai tentar fazer uma tradução simultânea com um microfone só, então espero que todos tenham um pouco de paciência, tá certo? Eu vou deixar o professor falar no microfone, que é o mais importante, e eu faço do lado uma traduçãozinha para não atrapalhar muito ele, tá? Para a gente poder trabalhar com um pouco mais de tranquilidade. Ok, são 11h19, vamos começar às 11h20, porque aí nós vamos até às 12h10 e aí a gente encerra, ok? Yes, will be a good idea to have some water, go to the restroom. Vamos fazer 5 minutos de intervalo, ele sugeriu, eu concordei. We have 5 minutes break, then Gavin will start the lecture. We can.
Is it possible to put this on there? Because I have. Yes. I bought this.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Thank you.
You don't need to have this.
One of the goals is to connect all the parties to this trail.
We don't do any clinical or biological research at our institute. No, it's mostly social, economic, psychological. Some musculoskeletal, but we don't have any clinics. It's done in collaboration with other people. Yeah, no, they probably would be at Melbourne University, but not at our institute. We don't get down to that level of biological.
And I know that from one of the scholarship for brainwash.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I want to question